Today I'm going to show you everything you need to know if you want to buy a 2-flat in Chicago. I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of everything from the loan process and the amount of money you need to save up to actually looking at the property to what you do after you have the property under contract. The first thing you need to do before you even buy real estate, period, especially in today's market, is to get your finances right. Unless you plan on buying your property with cash, you're going to need to get a mortgage in order to buy a 2-flat. So the first thing we need to do is work on getting pre-approved for a loan. The three most common types of loan when buying a 2-flat are the conventional loan, the FHA loan, and the FHA 203K loan. The conventional loan is pretty much your standard mortgage. The good thing about a conventional loan is they offer better rates, so that means the mortgage payments are often cheaper. The bad news with conventional loans is that they are harder to qualify for. That brings us to the second loan, which is the FHA loan. The FHA loan is the popular first-time homebuyer loan that you often hear about. The requirements for an FHA loan aren't as strict as the conventional loan, so it allows for more buyers to be able to afford real estate. On the other hand, the interest rates for FHA are often higher than the interest rates on a conventional loan, so keep that in mind. And with the FHA loan, you're required to live in the property for at least a year, and you don't have to worry about that with conventional loans. The third type of loan is called the FHA 203K loan. This is different from the regular FHA loan because it not only lends you the money to buy the property, it'll lend you money to make repairs on the property as well. If you want to know more about the FHA 203K loan, I'll make sure to leave a link in the description to the video that I've made going in detail about the 203K loan. When applying for a mortgage, the lenders are going to ask you to gather up some paperwork on your finances. The general paperwork they're going to ask is for 2 months of pay stubs, 2 months of bank statements for all your bank accounts, and they're also going to ask for 2 years of your W-2 forms or 1099 forms. I'm sure you're asking yourself right now, what are the requirements for a mortgage? Don't worry, I got you. As for the credit score requirements, an FHA loan requires at least a credit score of 580, but that's going to get you the highest interest rate. So of course, the better your credit score, the lowest interest rate you get. With the conventional mortgage, the credit score requirement is normally at least a 620 or 640, depending on the lender. Another requirement your lender is going to look for is called your debt-to-income ratio. Your debt-to-income ratio is basically the amount of money you make per month, gross, divided by the amount of monthly debt you have. Your monthly debt is anything that you're paying for monthly from money that you've borrowed, such as student loan payments, car payments, minimum credit card bill payments, stuff like that. Lenders usually want to see your debt-to-income ratio below 43% for FHA loans and even lower for conventional loans. If you calculate your debt-to-income ratio and you find that it's too high, it's time to start working on paying off some of those monthly debts so you can get that debt-to-income ratio down. This is often one of the biggest factors that stop people from being able to qualify for a mortgage. Lastly, lenders want to see that you have enough money saved up in order to be able to pay the down payment as well as the closing cost. The down payment requirement for an FHA loan is 3.5%, and closing costs normally come to around 3% of the purchase price of whatever property you're buying. So, as a general rule of thumb, I would recommend that you save up at least 6.5% of the purchase price. So for example, if you want to buy a property that costs $300,000, you should save 6.5% of that purchase price, which would be $19,500. Once you have your finances straightened out, it's time to reach out to a mortgage lender and let them know that you're trying to buy real estate. That mortgage lender will then provide you with what's called a pre-approval letter, which will let you know how much you qualify for. If you need help finding a lender in the Chicago area, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to refer you with some good lenders that I've worked with in the past. Once you have your finances straightened out and you have your pre-approval letter, now it's time to start thinking about what you want in a property. What areas are you looking in? What type of property do you want? Are you looking for a fixer-upper, or are you looking for something that's move-in ready and you don't have to do any work? Once you have a general idea of what you want in a property, take a look at some real estate websites such as Realty.com and Zillow and take a look at where prices are going for it. I would also suggest reaching out to a realtor at this point as well. For buyers, working with the realtor is absolutely free. Let the realtor know what you're looking for in a property and they should be able to send you some properties as well. Once you find a few properties that you like, it's time to actually go out and take a look at them. When looking at properties, here's a quick guide on what to actually look for. First, you need to pay attention to the location of the property. In Chicago, the location can change drastically just by going from block to block or just from crossing the street. When buying a 2-flat, you want to make sure that the area is not so run down that no one wants to live there and you're going to have a hard time finding a tenant. But at the same time, you want to make sure that the area is not too expensive either. If the area is too expensive, the only people that will be able to afford to rent there will most likely be looking to buy a property of their own. If you're unsure about an area, just take a look at the area and drive through it at night. If the area seems fine at night, then the location is most likely good. If you're afraid to get out of your car, well, that says something about the location. If you're in the Chicago area and you want a free list of properties for sale, be sure to reach out to me. I'll leave a link in the description below. Next, let's talk about the condition of the property itself. There are a few things you should look out for when actually looking at the property. Let's start with the interior of the property. Once you get in the property, you want to pay attention to the floors and the walls of the property to see what shape they're in. Also, make sure to take a look at the bathrooms and make sure to test all the faucets to check on the water pressure. Make sure to check the light switches in each room of the property to make sure the electricity is working, because you don't want to deal with any hidden problems there. Next, make sure to check the ceilings in each unit of the property to look for water damage. Check out the basement of the property. The basement is arguably one of the most important parts of the property. Make sure to check all of the walls, especially the exterior walls, for any signs of water damage. Next, check out the utilities such as the furnace and the water heater. Be sure to check to see if the heat is on separate bills for each unit or if it's all on one unit. That makes a huge difference on how much you can charge for rent, because if it's all on one bill, that means you as the landlord will be responsible for the heating bill. Now let's take a closer look at the exterior of the property. Make sure to check out any back porches or staircases to make sure that they're in good order. Also, make sure to check out the windows to see if they're in good condition or not. Once you check out the condition of the property, if you find something you like, it's time to make that offer. Here are some factors you should think about when making an offer. First, are there any other offers? If so, then you probably want to ignore the asking price. I would say to think about the most that you would pay for this particular property and offer that, because you're only going to get one shot. Next, how long has this property been on the market? If the property just came on the market, chances are the seller won't be as willing to negotiate and accept a lower offer. If the property has been on the market for a few months, the seller might be more willing to negotiate. Make sure to check with your realtor and come up with a plan on what's the best offer you should make. While we're speaking on making an offer, now's a good time to talk about asking the seller to pay some of our closing costs. While making an offer, you can ask for the seller to pay for your closing costs. Most lenders will allow the seller to pay for up to 6% of the purchase price and closing costs. The only thing the seller cares about is how much money they're going to net at the end of the day. So for instance, if we offer the seller $300,000, then the seller's going to get $300,000. If we offer the seller $300,000, but we ask the seller to pay for $5,000 in closing costs, the seller's going to get $295,000. Sellers generally don't mind paying closing costs as long as they get the money that they're looking for. Once you get your offer accepted, now it's time for you to turn in your earnest money and to do an inspection on the property. Earnest money is basically money that you pay to the buyer as a show of good faith that you're serious about buying this property. This earnest money actually goes toward your closing costs and your down payment. So it's basically like paying some of your down payment up front. However, I wouldn't worry about losing your earnest money if you decide you no longer want to buy the property. For instance, if you do an inspection on the property and you find something you don't like, you can cancel the deal and receive your earnest money back. As for the inspection, make sure you reach out to a professional home inspector and he'll go through every inch of that property to let you know what they find and what's wrong with it. Once you have that inspection report, you can then take that back to the seller and say, hey, I found these issues that are wrong with the property, and you can further negotiate on that property to see if you can get some money off. This is a common negotiation tactic when buying a property. You use the inspection report as leverage to see if you can get the seller to either make some repairs or give you some money off so you can make the repairs yourself. However, keep in mind that the seller does have the right to say no, and if they do have multiple offers, they might just say no, either you take the property as is or they'll go with the next offer. Once you're done with the inspection, the next part is the appraisal. The bank will send an appraiser out to the property just to make sure the property is worth what the bank is lending to you. Once the appraisal comes back good, then you do the final walkthrough of the property just to make sure the property is in the same condition as it was when you last saw it, and then you close on the property. Once you close on the property, first off, congratulations on your new property. But what do you do now? The first thing you should do once you close on the property is change all of the locks. I know the seller most likely gave you the keys to the property, but you don't know how many other keys are floating around out there. So just to be safe, make sure to change all the locks in the property. Once you do that, make sure to do any of the small repairs that you found during the inspection that you want to make before you move into the property. Trust me, it'll be a lot easier for you that way. Once your property is move-in ready, it's time to find some tenants. Now, if your property is already occupied, then hey, start collecting your rent. If you need to find tenants, however, I would simply suggest that you put up your rental on Zillow. Once you start showing your properties to tenants, make sure that you're running a background check and screening each applicant. The easy way to do so is by using a website called mysmartmove.com. As a landlord, you can sign up for free and you can send any prospective tenants to that website and they will run the background check and the credit checks for you. That way you don't have to deal with any sensitive information. Now, if you want an idea on what are some of the hot areas in Chicago to buy a 2-flat in, check out my video here.